Cup, as we did see yesterday, the whole world was supporting us. The whole world knew that Egypt deserved to be qualifying for the quarterfinals and meeting with Switzerland, which beat Colombia on penalties afterwards in the later kickoff. And the whole world knew that we deserved this opportunity. This game was ours only for the decisions of the VAR and the decisions of the French referee, Francois Le Texier. Egypt had won the world's respect, as we did see yesterday, as the tournament enters the dramatic new chapter at the World Cup. And the FIFA World Cup continues to captivate billions. But over the past 24 hours, one story has transcended the final score: Egypt's unforgettable performance against Argentina. Although the Pharaohs bowed out, the courage, discipline and fighting spirit have earned the admiration across the footballing world. International media widely described Egypt as one of the tournament's greatest revelations, while millions of Egyptians at home and abroad, joined by supporters from across the Arab world, celebrated the team that competed with confidence, pride and unwavering determination. Egypt's remarkable journey has become a powerful symbol of national unity and sporting excellence. The match also ignited the worldwide debate over several decisive refereeing moments, controversial VAR interventions, including the disallowed goal and appeals for the late penalty for Mohamed Salah and Hamdi Fathi. They had dominated the international headlines. The Egyptian Football Association lodged an official complaint with FIFA, arguing that the inconsistent officiating directly influenced the outcome and calling for a full review of the refereeing performance. Leading football voices added to the global discussion. Former England internationals Alan Shearer, Ian Wright, Rob Green, alongside Jamie Carragher, questioned the consistency of the VAR application. Former referee Mark Clattenburg also highlighted the controversial decisions, while former England manager Sam Allardyce joined the broader calls for the greater transparency in officiating. Elsewhere, the tournament now turns in the attention to the quarterfinals, with Argentina undeservedly progressing to face Switzerland following the Swiss side's historic penalty shootout victory over Colombia. Morocco's remarkable campaign continues as they prepare for the highly anticipated clash with France, while the race for the Golden Boot remains fiercely contested by Lionel Messi and Kylian Mbappe, Harry Kane and Erling Haaland. As the World Cup enters the decisive stages, one truth has become unmistakably clear: Egypt may have exited the competition, but the Pharaohs leave with their heads held high, having inspired millions and reminded the football world that true greatness is measured not only by victories, but by character, resilience, and the respect earned from the opponents and fans alike. Good luck for Morocco against France, and we'll be heading to the political segment of the Nile article for tonight, focusing on the Egyptian efforts to be strengthening the bilateral relations between Egypt and the rest of the African continent. We'll be having more details in the upcoming report. Stay tuned.
Africa was described as the continent of tomorrow. Today, that tomorrow is steadily becoming reality. Across the continent, a new geopolitical landscape is taking shape as Africa moves from the margins of global affairs to the heart of international strategic competition. Nations are no longer looking at Africa simply as a source of natural resources, but as a decisive partner in global security, trade, energy, digital transformation and sustainable development. Within this transformation, Egypt continues to consolidate its position as one of Africa's principal diplomatic and strategic anchors. During recent consultations with the chairperson of the African Union Commission, Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati reaffirmed Egypt's unwavering commitment to advancing peace, security, development, and continental integration, emphasizing close coordination with African institutions across political, economic, and health priorities. This vision reflects a broader diplomatic philosophy. Addressing the bicentenary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in late June, Minister Abdelati stressed that under President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, Egypt has revitalized summit diplomacy, transforming diplomatic engagement into a strategic instrument for strengthening regional stability, expanding partnerships, and restoring Egypt's influential role across Africa and the international community. Egypt's first diplomat further highlighted that economic diplomacy has become an essential pillar of Egypt's foreign policy alongside its political engagement. Egypt's growing partnerships with the European Union, the African institutions, and international organizations further demonstrate how diplomacy and development increasingly reinforce one another. As global power continues to evolve, Africa is no longer just adapting to international change. It is actively helping shape it. In this historic transition, Egypt's balanced diplomacy, deep African engagement, and long-term strategic vision positions it not only as a bridge between continents, but also as a catalyst for a more stable, integrated, and prosperous Africa as well.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Nile article, and to be shedding more light on this important topic, the Egyptian-African bilateral relations and how they have developed under the tenure of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and following the June 30th revolution, as we did celebrate the 13th anniversary of it about a week or so ago. So we'll be having more details with my guest for tonight on the program, Dr. Mohamed Salah, the political affairs researcher. Dr. Mohamed, thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Thanks a lot, and I'm happy, and I'd like to thank you for your hospitality. And I hope a very fruitful and informative discussion for our followers today.
Anytime, of course it will be. We will be starting with the importance of the growing geopolitical weight of the African countries, including Egypt. How do you think this will be shifting the global balance of power?
What I would like to say that Africa has a lot of opportunities regarding the coming or the nearest future, and it's one of the most important and potential keys for solving the economic problem that's happening now for the global economic system in general, not only in Africa or in Egypt, but for the world in general. As you are targeting most of the raw materials that are targeted in Africa, we have a lot of resources, whether these resources are agricultural resources or material resources. All of these resources are targeted by the superpower in the world in order to have a kind of development or a kind of improvement for their economies, whether in the West or in the East. So we have to know well that Africa is targeted from the West axis by America, United European Unions and others, and also from the Eastern axis, which is formulated between China and Russia. And we have to know well that China and Russia have a lots of action or lots of existence in Africa, whether in West Africa, in Mali, in Burkina Faso, and many of these countries, and they are looking forward for these actions or for these resources in order to control it and to cut or to prevent the others from making use of these resources. So we have to know well that this Africa is a kind of bilateral or the international or the global conflict that's coming or going will reach Africa sooner or faster.
Yes.
So we have to be prepared for this stage. We have to take our historical role regarding supporting our brothers in Africa. We have to take our historical role on giving them advices and to give them how to take actions regarding these struggles. That is very potential on this area in general.
Doctor, you mentioned the importance of transformation and the continuity between the East and West and the South and the North of Africa, which we are related at or we are located at in terms of Egypt. The continuity of the Nile, it symbolizes the transformations that we have seen over, I wouldn't say decades, but centuries for the Nile, and the transformation of civilizations here in Egypt and all over Africa. How do you see the importance of transforming to be facing the challenges of the future, as you mentioned, for Africa?
Well, let me say that the transformation in general, by many ways, or by many ways in this field between Egypt and Africa, represents bilateral benefits for both sides. We have to know well that we have lots of ties between both sides. We have historical ties with Africa. We have cultural ties, lots of ties between the Egyptian people and the African people, as we are a part of the African continent, and we have to know well that we share the same interests. We have the same culture. We have the same ideas regarding the future. We have supported them on their liberation from the occupation in the 16th of the last century.
Yes.
So we have to know well that we already have a tie that will support this axis that is happening or formulated now between the northern Egypt and for the southern Africa and the middle of Africa and the east of Africa also. And this will coincide, or it will formulate a new axis such as Cairo, Cape Town axis, and also from Alexandria to Victoria axis, which is representing or having or depending on the River Nile as a mediator between the north and south. So we have to know that giving this or having this infrastructure or supporting Africa in order to prevent them from being manipulated by others is to keep them and to support or to make the best use of their national capabilities in order to make the best use of their resources. One of the most important notes about this is that they don't have infrastructure, they don't have ways, they don't have accesses that enables them to transform their resources to factories and to regain them back with needed products or with needed services. So I think that the Egyptian Vision 2030, Egypt 2030, is depending on this.
Yes.
Is being a mediator between the raw materials in South Africa and in Africa in general, with the factories, whether these factories are in Egypt or in China or in Russia or in European Union, being a mediator between all of these parts in order to facilitate the trade or the commerce between both sides, from the markets to the factories. And this will help Africa more in order to improve their level of standard of living, and will help them to improve their national capabilities, will help them to solve lots of problems regarding the infrastructure, as they have lots of problems regarding the infrastructure in general.
Doctor, you mentioned the importance of Egypt being a mediator between Africa and the rest of the world, a gateway for Africa to the rest of the world and vice versa. But you mentioned a very important topic, which is the infrastructure that we have had here for the past 13.
Which are the basics of,
yes, for 12 years.
For our national vision,
yes, but
which is Egypt 2030.
We had criticism, we had skepticism about those projects. And now we're bearing the fruits of those projects.
And have a lots of fruits that will be having or will be targeted in the nearest future. As we have planned a lot, so have a lot of plans regarding making the best use of our geographical position, having a lots of ideas, or making the best use of our geopolitical power, and knowing well how to make the best use of or to solve the others' problems, whether we are talking about problems regarding development, about the global economic system in general, whether we are talking about the problems about the infrastructure problems in the African countries, how to mediate between them, how to make the best use of this. And we have to know well that these are the results of good planning for Egypt 2030, which is targeted airports, which is targeted ports, which is targeted lots of roads and lots of accesses around Egypt, in order to link Egypt with the east and the west and the south at the same time. And we have to know well also that exchanging benefits is a very basic information, or a very basic action between Egypt and Africa. As you are having or in a need for the Nile or the River Nile that's coming from Africa, and giving them on the other hand, you will give them the goods, will give them the opportunities, the investment opportunities, will give them to enable them to enlarge the standard of living for the African citizens. So we have to know that it's a very perfect and a very important investment for both sides, for Egypt and for Africa at the same time.
Yes, on the other hand, you've mentioned that there will be projects that will be unveiled here in Egypt in terms of infrastructure, or will be bearing the fruits of those projects in the years to come, in the decades to come. Like what?
We have already started with one of the most important hydromatic project in Africa, which is Julius Nyerere Dam, located in Tanzania. Yes. And we have a very successful project, really. And I'd like to say that the Tanzanians are very happy with this important dams, which have been executed in a very high way and a perfect time, a perfect period of time. I have to know well that this dam will enable Tanzania to produce electricity from water, and to have a water against on the dam at the same time. We have to know well that these actions will enable the Tanzanian economy to be more active and to be more productive at the same time. We have to know well that we have lots of opportunities, or lots of projects such as dams located in South Sudan. We have lots of projects such as Uganda and other, and also about the African Horn. We have lots of projects with Djibouti and with Somalia and with Eritrea. We have lots of links nowadays between the Egyptian ports and Eritrean ports on the Red Sea, and in order to solve, in order to be integrated in the operational level, we have to be shared with each others. All of these projects and all of these projects and all of these investment will help both sides, and which is have also another importance, which is a geopolitical importance that will enable both sides in order to keep their...
The projects in Africa could be helping Egypt?
Sure, you have to strengthen your national security with your ties between you and Africa. And having such projects and having such important results regarding the current and the coming projects between Egypt and the African nations will help, or will strengthen the national security of Egypt. We have to know well that keeping this Africa safe, these African nations safe, will help us to be stable, and will help us to have lots of, I would like to say that we have thousands of investment opportunities in these markets. They do not have enough opportunities, they do not have enough projects in Africa. I think it's a very opening and a very opening marketing that's ready to accept or to receive lots of capitals in order to invest in them on the infrastructure, on on many projects, as you wanted to know. As I have mentioned, we have Julius Nyerere Dam,
Yes.
which is used to produce electricity. I think Africa have lots of problems regarding producing electricity. So you could provide them with the needed solutions. You could provide them with engineers and technicians that are very skillful on implementing such projects. You will help them to produce the needed power or energy for them to be used on the level of lighting houses and streets. All of these investments are targeted from the Egyptian side, and I think this will help us lots about giving or having a stable and strong development rate regarding the Egyptian economy in general.
Yes, in the past couple of weeks we have celebrated the anniversary of the founding of the Foreign Ministry here in Egypt, 200 years. And on this day, the celebration, Foreign Minister Dr. Badr Abdullah spoke about the importance of the summit diplomacy, the importance of the diplomatic relations that we have seen under the tenure of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, more specifically between Egypt and the rest of the African continent. How do you see the importance of the efforts of President al-Sisi for the past 10 or 12 years in this file?
Let me start with delivering or giving the presidency of the African Union to President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in 2016. I think this year was very important for the African Union in general.
16 or 19?
I think 16 or 17, I think.
Okay.
Let us make sure that let's make sure. But
Okay.
I think this year that when President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi took the presidency of the presidency of the African Union, I think this action or this period of time were very significant for the African Union in general. We have activating the role of the African Union, whether in solving problems that's happening or taking part in African nations, whether about having a shared agenda among the African nations, which is Africa 2063. We have lots of ideas or lots of agreements that have been held between the African nations. It was very important for the African side to have this presidency for President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi for the African Union in general. Also, we have to know well that President Sisi have make lots of bilateral relations between Africa and most of the global powers, such
Yes.
as China, such as Russia, such as the European Union, such as America. We have lots of bilateral summits between Africa and China, Africa
Yes.
and Russia, Africa and European Union. So most of these bilateral summits will produce a lot of benefits for the African Union and also for the African people in general. So I think that the role of the Egyptian presidency and the Egyptian state in Africa is very important. It's a key role on strengthening the relations and keeping the national security of Egypt is secure. And for them, it's very crucial and very significant on having solutions for all of their problems, especially about the war or the wars that are taking or happening between neighbors in Africa. Lots of tensions and lots of problems. All of these actions and solutions are produced by Egyptian mediation between all the stakeholders on this war.
Yes, it was in 2019, and President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi spoke about, as you mentioned, the importance of having African solutions for African problems, for African challenges.
Sure.
How do you see this slogan being implemented on the ground ever since 2019, or ever since Egypt was heading the African Union and for the ensuing 7 years?
I think it is expected or it is affected by the desire of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi for having an African solutions for our problems. I think it's a strong desire. It represents a strong desire for President Sisi to not on the African level, but also on the Arab level at the same time. We have to know well that Egypt is looking forward to solve the problems, not to make use of them. Most of the mediators, whether they have another mediators or having international mediators outside the continent, will not be fair regarding finding these solutions. So these superpowers, especially we are talking about the international superpower, when they are interfering as a mediator on these actions or on these problems, they are not looking for a serious and useful solutions. They are targeting making the best use of both sides on this problem, like what's happening in Ethiopia, like what's happening in Sudan, like what's happening in many countries, many African countries. As the most important, the first important problem that are facing African nations is public war, or war that's happening between the same people itself.
Yes.
So we have
civil war.
Civil war, I think, yes. So this is the most important, the most barrier that prevents capitals and investments from going to Africa. This kind of war, which is harming, or which is affecting badly on the concept of the nation itself or the state itself. So we have to know well. We have seen lots of mediations between President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, have helped them between most of the problems that's happening on the African continent in general. We have seen lots of summits that's happening between President Sisi and other presidents in order to solve the problems. We have seen lots of Egyptian initiatives in order to produce African solutions for the African problems, and we are waiting, or we are knowing well that the African future won't be safe without this very important slogan, which is finding African solutions for African problems. Without this slogan, we won't have any future on for the African nations and the states in general.
Yes, and not just speaking about the infrastructure projects that we have seen here in Egypt or propagated in Africa, not just about the investment figures that we have heard for the past decade or so under the tenure of President Sisi and in the rest of the African continent. How do you see the importance of the strategic transformation that we are witnessing nowadays in the African continent? How can Egypt make the best out of it in terms of boosting the bilateral ties?
I would like it's a very important or a golden chance for us to make the best use for this important strategy and the strategic transformation that's happening now. Most of them is strengthening the ties between the people. We have to be more tied to our brothers in Africa. We have to be more cooperative with them. We have to know and to share them their problems in order to find the solutions. What's called, or what we are calling, a soft power solution. You have to use the Egyptian people to be a part of this strategic solution in the future. On this level, we have lots of committees regarding the scientific organizations such as Alexandria University and Cairo University. We have a very significant presence from Al-Azhar organization and the Orthodox Church in Africa. We have lots of soft power that Egypt must use in order to have or to gain the fruits of this very important transformation that's happening now. So I think that having this is how to give or to accept or to attract the people of Africa to Egypt again. One of the most problems between 13th of June revolution was that there were lots of blocks between Africa and Egypt due to the assassination or false assassination attempt happened to President Mubarak on Ethiopia.
Yes.
And have lots of a problem regarding this. So we have to regain them back to Egypt. Egyptian people, African people have lots of ties with Egypt, and they love Egypt by nature.
Yes.
So they have lots of. If you ask any African regarding Egypt, he will give you lots of information regarding the history, regarding the footballers, regarding artists, regarding Azhar, regarding the Orthodox Church. So they are treating Egypt as the mother for Africa, not as a neighbor, but they are looking forward Egypt as, or looking for Egypt as a mother for the African nations in general.
Yes, and we have seen several initiatives under President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi for the benefit of the Egyptians, but we have seen the same initiatives being propagated for the Africans to be facing the regional challenges in the continent. How do you see the importance of such a step?
Attracting the human resources for the African to Egypt, and already we have a lot of this, such as on the presidential level, we have a lot of presidential courses that are located for the Africans, and we have a lot of opportunities to have science, to study on the Egyptian universities. You are targeting a certain level of leaders which are expected to be one of the future leaders of the African nations in general. When you have a student here in Egypt for 5 or 6 years, will have lots of memories, memories in Egypt. It will be tied to the Egyptian community, will be tied to the Egyptian society, will be affected by our principles. He will be having, will be allied to us, or will be loyal to us. So this is a very important of these presidential courses, and for the opportunities for study that is happening to the Africans on the Egyptian universities. I have to know well that when you are targeting a youth generation,
yes,
you are looking or targeting the future of this country, and then the more you give them these opportunities, the more you have supporters, and the more you have allies on the African nations and countries.
Yes, and we have mentioned beforehand that Egypt is working as a mediator. It's the gateway between Egypt and the rest of the world, between Africa and the rest of the world in terms of the Mediterranean, the West, the European countries as well. How do you see the importance of the African connectivity within the role of Egypt?
This is what we have to know about. We have started to at the early beginning of our talks today, yes, our discussion today about the importance of the geopolitical location for Egypt, and we have to know well also that Africa is derived from connecting, or derived from linking to European side, is derived from connecting to Russian side about the Chinese. So Egypt is preparing or giving them the solutions, or the needed solutions to solve these problems. Egypt is playing a key role regarding linking Africans with the Europeans on a shared basis, or a shared expectations from both sides. I'd like to say also that most of the Africans do not have any gate to the Western world about the European Union, except Egypt. So they are looking for Egypt as a key role to connect them to the capitals of the Europeans for the technological technology of the European, about the factories of European, and all Europe is looking for Africa for both sides. The first, that Africa is full of raw materials, and the second is markets. About giving these are the markets which will accept, or which will receive the products of the factories in Europe, or in Egypt, or in China. So we have to know well that it's very important for all the sides, and Egypt is having a very important role on this. Make the very best use of its geographical location or position between all of these stakeholders, between the Russians, between the Europeans and the Chinese and the African at the same time.
But in terms of connectivity and cooperation and coordination between Egypt and the African institutions, how do you see the role of Egypt in terms of keeping the peace and the security and the collective development of the African continent?
I'd like to say that we have a lot of peace-saving forces in many African nations. I'd like to say that we have a very important role regarding the African Peace for African Council for Peace for Peace and Security. Egypt also have played a key role on solving problems, reaching a compromise for many of negotiations that are held by whether we have a lots of problems between two nations or between two parts at the same nations, like what happened in Democratic Congo about the peace agreements that have been happened by the government and the others. So we have to know well that we have played a lots of roles regarding solving this important and this security problems. As I have told you before, these are the very bad and the very bad and the very important, or the first important threat for the future of Africa in general, not only on these few years.
Yes, and speaking about the future, because we have agendas, one for Egypt for 2030, one for Africa for 2063. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi always spoke during successive African Union summits that we need the sustainable development efforts to be completed by the efforts of the African people, not from the outside world. How do you see the importance of stating this fact several times by President al-Sisi?
What I would like to say is that both agendas are compatible with each other, and what I would like to say that it's very important to have an agenda for your future. And because having such agenda is helping you or keeping you alive or linked to the future, gives you a lots of opportunities, or make you ready to make the best use of these potential opportunities in the future. Having agendas will give you a strategic direction you have to work with. They will help you to know where will you be in the coming few years. So we have to know that both visions, whether Egypt 2030 or Africa 2063, both of them are very related. Both of them are very important for each other. They have the same strategic directions, which about adopting the principles of the sustainable development in general, whether regarding equity, whether regarding about giving or delivering food and water and fighting poverty, whether regarding about the environmental basis for development. All of these goals are shared between Egypt and Africa at the same time. And we have to know well that most of the Africa are poor regarding the strategic. Whether you don't have your own plan, you will give the others the chance to use you to execute their plans.
Yes.
And this is one of the second more important about Africa, which is they do not have any plans for the future. So they are used usually by the international of the global superpowers in order to achieve their goals, not the African goals.
To use them.
To use them, yes. They have been used for decades, lots of decades of time. So you know, whether you have a very rich continent with resources, but at the same time the highest level of poverty, the lowest level of the standard of living, both of these results are results for being used by the others to achieve their goals, not to achieve your own goals. By having a vision, or by having your own plans, by having your goals, your own targets, this won't happen in the future again. You will be committed to do, or you will be committed to plans, or to do plans regarding your own goals, which is stated, which is well known, which is clear, which is related to timeline. So all of this action will finally reach both sides to reach to their goals, achieving their targeted goals, achieving the development or the sustainable development goals, whether in Egypt or in Africa at the same time.
Dr. Mohamed Salah, the political affairs researcher, thank you very much for being with us tonight.
I'm very happy to be with you today and hope to meet you again as soon as possible.
Especially on the new show, the Nile article with the new studio.
I would like to say congratulations for the new studio and hope you and for Nile TV as a very important channel or for all the Egyptians that's linked to our childhood, that have lots of memories with Nile TV. I'd like to say that I'm expecting or I'm having lots of memories with you, hoping you all of the success of the future, inshallah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
And we'll be having a quick break. Stay tuned. See you then.